Hey everybody, and what's happening? So today we're going to discuss spreadsheet processing of the data that we collected last time, okay? So this is for um, our little mini lab that allows us to determine a golf ball's acceleration, the force acting on the golf ball, and the impact velocity on the golf ball when it's dropped from the balcony, okay? So let's get started. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and take a look at a Google Sheet. So we're going to open up a Google Sheet. So we're going to go to sheets.google.com. That's what you want to type in, just sheets.google.com. You hit enter, and that'll allow you to create a new spreadsheet. Okay, so we're going to go, let's just call this, whoa, this thing's like losing on me. Okay, so balcony drop data, okay? We'll call it data processing because we're processing these data, okay? And so the first data that we collected, right, regarded time. So we'll type time in seconds, okay? Time in seconds. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit so that we can see a little bit better. So give me just a second. Okay, so now I've blown this guy up so that we can see quite clearly what's going on. And we put our unit, one thing that's really important to note is that we put our unit here in the header for the column so that we don't have to write our unit below for any of our time values. And that's important because if we include the unit with any of our time values, then Google Sheets will get confused and it'll mess up the calculations. So we definitely always want to just leave our unit right there in the column header, okay? And so we performed 3 trials. All right, and so let's go ahead and make up some like fictitious data here, okay? So let's say we had 1.07, 0.94. These are just bogus data that I'm making up, okay? You should use your data, okay? I'm using some bogus data, and 1.11 seconds. All right, then we want to calculate an average, right? Also in seconds, okay? And let me make this column a little bit bigger so that'll look nice. I'll make this a little bit bigger here. Okay, there we go. And so the average time in seconds, well, what was the average time in seconds? Well, what I do here is I select all of these, and then I go over to this little tool this is the Greek letter sigma right there. I go to the tool, it's my functions tool, and I click average. And then right there, in that little cell below all of my times, Google Sheets will calculate an average for me. This function, the average function, is going to operate over the cells C2 through C4 right here. Okay, so let me annotate that with my stylus, right? So what this function says is that the average function built into Google Sheets is going to operate over all of these cells. Okay, that's why there's C2 colon C4. It wants to go through that entire range. It'll calculate an average. And when it does, it's going to give us 1.04, okay? 1.04 seconds. All right, so there are some other values that we have obtained throughout our process here, and I'll go ahead and put them up, right? So we're gonna need these in a minute. So distance in meters that our ball dropped, well, that was 4.9, okay? Our golf ball dropped 4.9 meters. And another value that we need is our mass in grams, okay? And for most of us, for our golf ball, that was about 45.5 grams, all right? And so what about mass in kilograms, right? So we can put this in as a formula, okay? And so let me show you how to enter that formula. So if we remember from our work, right? So if you start with a mass in grams and you want a mass in kilograms, what you do is you multiply 45.5 grams times 1.0 kilograms per gram. and the grams cancel out, or sorry, not per gram, but per 1,000 grams. Okay, the grams cancel out, and that's going to give you 0.0455 kilograms, right? So that's the little conversion. And so then, okay, so how do you go ahead and make this work in the Google Sheets formula? Well, you click in the little cell that where you want your kilogram value to go. And up here in the formula bar, so you have to click, so you have to click first. First, you click in the cell, okay? And then you have to click in the little formula bar over here. That's your order of clicking. And once you're all set up in the formula bar, you type equals, okay? And then you have to reference this cell over here. So it equals this cell, right? And I think I can just click on it, F2, and then I go divided by 1,000, okay? Because that's what I'm doing here mathematically. I'm dividing by 1,000, okay? So this value right here comes straight from this cell. So I have to divide that cell, okay, by 1,000. And when I do that, I get the number I was looking for, right? This number right here matches up with this number right here, okay? And I've included my units on top in both cases, so I'm still good to go on units, all right? So take your time and go ahead and set that up, and then you'll be ready. So I would say pause right now, get everything that I've done so far set up, and then you'll be ready to start with calculations, okay? We're gonna go calculations next. Okay, so now you've got your spreadsheet set up. You've completed all of these calculations here, right? And you're ready to start doing some calculations. Okay, so the first thing we wanted to calculate, right? Our first calculation was for acceleration, okay? Acceleration, and this is in meters per second squared. So I have to enter that like that, okay? And I need, again, a little bit more room here, so I'm gonna open this up, and that's just fine. Okay, so my acceleration in meters per second squared, well, what's that going to be, right? So let's remember, okay? So from our calculations last time and from the lecture last time, acceleration A equals 2 times the distance divided by the time squared. So in this case, our distance is 4.9, so we get 2 times 4.9 all over, okay, time squared, and this is our time, 1.04 squared, okay? But how do we enter this in a way that Google Sheets is gonna understand? So when we type into our formula bar, we're gonna say to ourselves, okay, this is 2 times, and this cell here is E2, okay? This is E2, 2 times E2 divided by, and this cell over here is C5, okay? C5 is this guy. So C5 to the power, and I'll draw a better caret, to the power of 2, okay? That's what we're gonna enter into our formula bar, all right? So let me go ahead and click on the cell that I want. So this, in my formula bar now, I type equals 2 star times, okay, E2, all divided by C5 to the power of 2, okay? And when I do that, right, I can see that Google Sheets is highlighting the 2 cells that I want. So I know I'm on the right track, okay? And then I can go right back into my formula bar, hit enter, and get the answer that I want, okay? And one thing that I'm gonna do probably eventually is cut off some of these extra digits, but let me Google how to do that, and then I'll come back so that we only have so many digits there, okay? That's kind of crazy looking. All right, so I'm gonna clear all of that out. And now we're gonna go to, so I would say go ahead and do what I've just done, okay? Go ahead and go through and calculate your acceleration value. And then next up, we're gonna calculate force, okay? Force. So force, and our units for force are newtons, okay? So how are we gonna calculate force? Well, we have to remember, from our calculations, right? F equals, and that's a terrible looking F, but it'll do, m times a. So that's mass times acceleration. So in this case, our mass, and we want our kilogram mass. Okay, so if our force is going to be in newtons, we have to use our kilogram mass. So there's our mass, and there's our acceleration. Okay, so force equals mass times acceleration. So what I have are 0.0455 kilograms times, and I'm just going to use the first three significant digits here, 9.06 meters per second squared. Okay, and so in terms that Google Sheets can understand, that's going to be G2. That's what this cell is right there, G2. So G2 times, okay, C7. C7, all right? And so that's what I'm going to enter into my formula bar. So equals, and you have to use the equal sign, G2 times C7, okay? And I can see that both of those cells have been highlighted by Google Sheets. And if I hit enter, boom, right? I get my force in newtons. And again, there are just too many digits there. And so we'll have to clean that up a little bit later, okay? No big deal. All right, so I'd say go ahead and do this. And then we'll head to our last calculation, okay? Our last calculation, which is impact velocity. All right, so our impact velocity will have units of meters per second. And let's go back to our calculation method that we used last time. So velocity final, which is our impact velocity, okay, the final velocity that the golf ball has as it hits the ground is its impact velocity. Those are the same thing. That equals initial velocity, which was 0, plus acceleration times time, okay? So this final velocity, that's the impact velocity. This initial velocity is 0 meters per second because we were just holding the golf ball, right? So when you hold something, it's got a velocity of 0, okay? So that golf ball's initial velocity was 0. And so now we have to express this in terms that Google Sheets will understand. So it's equal to acceleration, which is right here. That's C7, so that equals C7 times, right? What's the average time? Oh, that's just C5, right? So there's your time, there's your acceleration, okay? So C7 times C5. All right, let's go ahead and plug that into our formula. So I'll click on my cell, I'll click on the formula bar, equals C7 times C5. I can see that the correct two cells have been selected here and here. Okay, I can see that clearly, and I can hit enter. Boom, okay? Now I get my impact velocity. All right, so I'm gonna clear all this off. And at this point, we're almost done. We're just gonna do a little bit of tidying, okay? A little bit of tidying. So first order of business, I'm going to select all of this stuff on the left side here, and I'm gonna left align it so it'll look prettier, okay? Left align, it looks a lot prettier, okay? Then here with all these data, I'm gonna center align them. Those look a lot better, okay? And then over here and all the way through, I'm gonna center align all of this. So that looks prettier too. And I feel like maybe at this point, this column is unnecessary. I could remove it, but I don't know. So I'm just gonna leave that alone for the moment. I think this is okay. And then one thing that I notice is like all of these values could be bold, and then all of these values could be bold, so that like the only thing that's not bold is the data themselves, and I think that's okay. And then what I can do here is I can switch these out, or I can limit their number of digits. So let me see if I can sort, filter views, data validation, randomize, named ranges, protect sheets, clean up suggestions. What's this? No. Well, that's kind of cool. So I have to look at that later. So I'm gonna get rid of that for now, but let me see if I can format these data. Give me just a second and I'll show you how it's done. We're almost done here. Okay, so it turns out that the easiest way to do this is to go ahead and just limit, you want to limit the number of decimals like this. So this decreased decimal places right here, that's where you want to go. And you just click on it. So there are just too many decimal places. I'm just going to cut that to 2 decimal places all across. Okay. And I feel pretty good about that. I feel like that's just fine. And I think that's going to make those data just look better. Okay. So those are my data. And then I feel like this column probably isn't necessary. So edit, let me see if I can just move column left. Oh, that doesn't work. So edit, delete column D. And that doesn't change anything for the worse. And I think that's fine. Okay, I think that's totally fine. So yeah, I think that's a good table. Okay, so those are our data. And if we really want to, what we can do is we can open this up a little bit, open this guy up a little bit here. We can select all of them and we can add a nice border like this. So it'll look a little bit nicer. And then that's something that you'll be able to go ahead and just paste into. And if we wanted to, we could go insert row above, okay? And then that way you can see the nice border all the way around. And so if you want, then later on, you'll just be able to copy paste this table into your lab report and it'll look very nice, okay? So that's all for our data table today. Once you're done with all of your calculations and your spreadsheet, you can go ahead and turn your data table in. Your data table is going to look pretty similar to mine, okay? I want to make sure that you know which numbers to use and how to insert them into your spreadsheet, okay? So go ahead and you create your own spreadsheet using these instructions. And then if you have any questions about calculations or if there's anything we need to discuss regarding your quiz or your lab report, we should have time today, all right? So as always, good luck and may the forces be with you.